Good morning, everybody. There's a quote that I'm about to butcher, but it goes something like, the character of a community can be judged by how we treat the most vulnerable members of our society. And I think in our society, especially, this is often those impacted by the criminal justice system and mass incarceration. So because of that, I'm really honored to bring Naima Shalhoub today, who is a musician, educator, vocalist, and all-around beautiful person. And since 2014 has worked to bring music and freedom sessions to the incarcerated women of SF County Jail. So please help me give a warm welcome to Naima Shalhoub.
Am I hearing voices in my head, or is that just... You guys hearing that too? Okay, perfect. Perfect. A remix, it's all good. It's one thing when you start visiting prisons and jails and juvenile halls. I'm not sure who's in this room and who's experienced incarceration or been on the inside, but you have to be ready for anything, so this is like totally fine. You might be in a room with no chairs, you might have, like, all kinds of things happen, so, you know, voices in my head is the least of my concerns at this point. In community too, right? We have to keep our eyes on a prize. We all have to have a certain type of vision, a purpose. Every single community has to have a purpose. Every single community has a song that we're singing regardless if we know it or not. And there might be voices coming from above. There might be voices coming from the ground. There might be voices coming at us left to right. But if we are strong together, we can keep singing that song and keep marching toward that prize. So I'm gonna keep singing this song regardless of what voices are happening in my head or outside of my head or whatever. Sing it with me if you feel like it. One more time, you can hum if you're uncomfortable. Just the front of the room. Yeah. Back of the room, my favorite part of a room. All together. Keep it going. Yeah, that's right. Those voices are gonna keep going. Y'all, I can't tell you, I have a special place in my heart when little sound things happen because it forces us to just be in the spirit of the moment and allow for spirit and soul to speak. So if you don't mind, do you mind if I move around the room as we talk about community? Beautiful. I just want to tell a little story and open with a story about my family and where my family's from to kind of illustrate this point of community. I often like to start with song and not words because I feel like it allows for all our voices to have space. It allows for us to actually experience the process of call and response, leadership and support, difference, which, as we know, thank you, Ancestor Audre Lorde, saying, we cannot have creativity without difference. We cannot have power without difference, because through our difference, we discover our own strengths as an individual. We discover places and edges and borders that we might not be able to see. But when you, sir, and you, ma'am, and all of us in between are here with our voices and our histories, our pain, our wounding, our joys, our beauty, all in one room, all in the same city of Oakland, which has so much diversity, so much pain, so much harm, so much trauma, so much resilience, so much power. We cannot have any of it if we do not embrace difference. And I thank God for Audre Lorde teaching me that, because it took me a long time to realize how important the resonance of difference is in community. Those of us who are, raise your hand if you're a musician or love music or know a lot about music or anything beautiful. So, okay, great. Everyone's hands up. All right. So we all experience harmony. Harmony is not necessarily tones that might sound happy or sound with resolve. Harmony is actually multiple tones, anything more than one tone that goes together. That might feel dissonant. Yeah, we've heard musicians. Yeah, we've heard musicians that play intense music, right? Intense music that might make you want to, jump out of your skin. That's the same. We've also heard, ooh, that love song. If you could just close your eyes, you know which one I'm talking about. That love song gets you in that certain place. Okay, starts making you think about certain people. Hey, okay. We know the music that makes us feel joy, ecstatic, beauty, tears. All that is created from harmony, from tone color. Every single person in this here has a different resonance to your voice. That's tone color. All right, so already we're discovering that we can't have vibration and music without difference. Difference is beautiful. Now, however, there's a great lie going around that has been planted and forcibly planted in the earth. And that is the lie that difference is weakness. And that is the lie that says, in order to have community, call it the nation state, call it a certain myth of what nation is, who belongs, who doesn't. There is a myth that says, in order to have community, we all have to be the same. We all have to have the same religion. We all have to have the same color. We all have to have the same damn name. We all have to come from the same damn people. No. Excuse me, my French, and I'm sorry, Dad, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. Okay. It's one of the greatest lies. That, to be honest, I'm still trying to fight within myself. So that brings me to my mom and dad. Born in Sierra Leone, grew up in Lebanon, in a small village in northern Lebanon. And in that small village, there's an understanding of what community is. Now, in Arabic, there's no one word for community. In fact, I was doing some research, and I could not find one word. So, of course, the first person I call, Mom, Dad, what's the word in Arabic for community? My dad goes, that's so interesting you bring that up, because I was on this conference call at 10 a.m., And we were discussing with other Lebanese in particular, other Arabs actually, not just Lebanese, in particular, and we discussed for an hour and couldn't find quite the word that matches up with the English word community. Now, where does the English word community come from? I did some research. So in the Latin, community is communaris. Hold on a second, let me, before I butcher any word people in the room. Okay, perfect, great, yeah, okay. So I can just, Google. All right, Google, internalize Google, come on. It's, communis, thank you. The Latin word for communis, which means common, okay? So common. Now, I like to not just go from the Latin, because Latin comes from the languages of colonization, right? Which is, my first language is English, so I ain't mad at that. But it's important for me to kind of check myself. So back to the Arabic. So I'm asking my dad, what is the word for Arabic? So I start doing my own research. Semitic languages are 30th to 25th century. We have about 20 centuries before the 5th century Latin that came from. I'm gonna bring it all back, I promise you. This is the way I go. So in that sense, community, as I might use that word, was always connected to land and tribe and people. So let's go back to my mom and dad, Marie and Ibrahim Shalhoub, in their village in Lebanon. There was an understanding, and even in Arabic to this day, I'm in Lebanon, the translation of like you meet someone, from which land are you from? Ayya balad, which land? What's your name? And those questions can also have this negative connotation of suffocation a little bit. It's like, always trying to ask me where I'm from. You're trying to figure out my family. You're trying to figure out this and that. However, the beauty of it is, in small communities, in small villages, my parents and their families and the families in their village understood the value system that they used for reconciliation, for harm, for conflict. There was an understanding. In fact, my grandfather, turns out that he was one of the village elders that people would go to help resolve harm and conflict. So a big part of myself, even though I was born on this land, which what we call the United States, which we all know has only been a recent phenomenon. So I just give my respect to the First Nations people, and my deep and utter respect to those folks who were brought here on slave ships, enslaved, who have imprinted this soil, making sure we do not forget. And we will never forget, especially because of music. Because if you think about what American classical music is, it's the blues. It's our sorrow songs. I'm using our in a great sense. So that memory is intrinsically in our vibration as we walk through, as we meet each other, as we see each other. That resonance, whether we want to consider it or not. So my family from the village of Rahbi, small community, war breaks out because of external globalized issues going on, the spread of colonization. By the end of the 1800s, more than 80% of the world was colonized by a European nation. Colonization is, in fact, an uprooting of culture, an uprooting of memory in order to implant something such as nation, such as external value systems that have to do with belonging and not belonging and control, so that the powers that be can continue to maintain control over the population. That trickles down 1800s, 1900s, 1910, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up to here we are in 2018. So what the heck does that mean for us? Let me tell you what that means for us. There's two things happening. Two things happening. Community is always a process of understanding what we always already have been since the beginning of time, and it is a process of becoming again. So you have your being, you have your relationship to, I don't know, depending on what it is. For me, it's my higher power. It's the Most High. I understand who I am because I am loved, but I cannot have an understanding of self without y'all. I cannot. So my parents, in Rahbi, war breaks out. My father tells me the story. His best friend was a Muslim man. My family is Christian, Greek Orthodox. Was the religion and spirituality that they practiced in the village. But it was a mixed village. There was Christians, Muslims. It was a mixed village, okay? My dad's best friend, a Muslim man. Best friend, played soccer together, loved each other, fought together, everything. War starts breaking out. A part of that war in Lebanon was a religious war. It affected sense of identities. And there was this moment, and I'll never forget as a little girl, my father's telling this story to friends that they had brought over to the house. This is in upstate New York now. I was born in California, raised in upstate New York. So we're in our house, and we have these stairs, and I kind of snuck out of my bedroom late at night, and I'm looking down at the banister, and my parents have about 10 people over, and they were sharing about their story and how they came to the US. How they met, how my parents fell in love, that's a different talk. So they were telling this story, and I remember my father saying, you know, my best friend was a Muslim man. We loved each other, supported each other, celebrating each other's cultures, each other's beliefs. That was not an issue. And there was that day, they looked at each other in the eye, and they knew because of what was going on outside of them, there was a sense and a fear that began to come within them that started planting seeds of mistrust that broke my heart to hear that. And that was one of the most honest things I've ever heard on how those lies can be implanted within us and disrupt community. So what do we do? What do we do with that? We, as different voices coming from different places, cannot be afraid of these things, cannot be afraid of the places in ourselves where we might distrust each other, where we might want to walk the other way. And most definitely cannot be afraid to accept the fact that legacies of certain people have oppressed the legacies of other people. That needs to be a mainstream conversation. And thank the Most High in Oakland, it is for the most part. You can have these conversations and more and more and more and more because of so much of the work that people have done. So here I am in upstate New York listening to this story. And in that moment, this awakening of the potential for mistrust coming from some other place, some other outside voice saying that, wait a second, why can't you and I who are different, why can't you and I who are different somehow continue to build together? So I grew up in upstate New York for the most part, always feeling like I belonged to two different worlds, being a US citizen person, being a citizen of Lebanon, being Arab American, and always sort of torn into two different places. And the beauty that allowed for, and also the pain of that. So in my life, I've always had a sensitivity to those dynamics, and especially to those that are marginalized and pushed out. So I ended up studying post-colonial anthropology in San Francisco, and it was in that really rigorous, intense period of my life that I started putting to words this sort of cacophony, this dissonance that I always felt within me, this feeling that I wasn't sure if I really had a place. I wasn't sure if my voice mattered, and I wasn't sure, to be honest, if I was really worthy of pursuing what I really loved. And it was in that I heard voices of Audre Lorde. It was in that I heard Edward Said, the writer of Orientalism. It was in that read Angela Davis, Bell Hooks, Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth. Can I hear some snaps if this is resonating with anybody? Okay, cool. Yes, okay. It blew my mind with the soulfulness and the preciseness. And James Baldwin, I call him a teacher, an elder to me, because I constantly look to him when I'm feeling stuck. But it's through these teachings that I realized that without difference, life is impossible. If you look at biodiversity, you look at how diverse trees, earth, birds, animals, down to a molecular system, down to a physics system, protons, electrons, magnetic forces, that is all created with tension. So we need to learn to embrace tension. Now the thing with the nation state is we're not taught that. We're taught the thoughts that keep us on a narrow path of identity, and if you don't fit that identity, you're gonna also start swallowing in the lies of self-rejection, not allowing yourself space, and that's gonna be internalized, and we can see it in our institutions, we can see it in the school to prison pipeline. We can see the astonishing numbers of black men behind bars. Why? We can trickle it down all the way down to this fear of difference, because when you embrace difference, you gotta let go of control. You gotta let go of control. But the beautiful thing about letting go of control, in my belief system, I give it to a higher power, and I give it to the Most High, the Creator, creation. The first time I went into San Francisco County Jail, at the time I was learning a lot about the prison system and the injustices of the prison system. And as a musician, I was slowly coming up and making my way, and I found a connection of someone who invited me to come into San Francisco County Women's Jail. And I didn't know what to expect. And so I had a couple songs that I prepared to share. And before we started our Friday music sessions every Friday, I was actually invited to a Mother's Day ceremony that was being planned for the incarcerated mothers on the inside. So she said, Naima, just come, you'll meet some of the women that you'll be working with, and just prepare a couple songs, play a couple songs that you can sing. So I think it was God Bless the Child, Billie Holiday, and Change Gonna Come, Sam Cooke, and I those two songs came to me. And so at the time, I came into the jail. I'd never been into a jail before. I showed up. When it was my time to sing, I sang, and I never, ever will forget the utter generosity that was shown to me in that moment by these women that I had over the year to come to know very, very well. And it was in that moment, in the most seemingly impossible of circumstances, where free and unfree is so in your face, orange and street clothes, handcuffs, and open wrists, open palms. It was in that moment that I truly felt and realized the power of resonance that music allows for in communities. And so I continued to do that, continued to be humbled every time I went in there, and leaving and able to go in my car and drive off, and yet feeling the spirit of these folks with me, the spirit of these brilliant, incredible women who have lived such intense lives with difficult choices. And because of the way our cities and our structures and our country is structured, that if you're not given certain privileges, and if you don't especially look a certain way or talk a certain way, and you don't have the right name, you don't come from the right land, the right neighborhood, the right, you become the wrong. And that's kind of the song that is being sung in the nation. So I want to ask us, what's a song that we want to sing in our communities? What's a song that we want to sing in our communities? Not necessarily chorus, verse, chorus, blah, 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 but that song, that internal resonance. What are we making space for? Who's not present in this room that needs to be present? What are the rests, like in music, those rests, those moments of silence that we can allow ourselves so that there's self-reflection to ask myself, Naima, what part of you are you so terrified that you project onto someone else so that you reject them? What communities am I rejecting so hard because it brings up such fear in myself? And those of us that walk around with more privileges, more skin privileges, more gender privileges, how can we just take a step back, be maybe a part of the harmonic section, and let others take the lead melodically? How can we all be part of the same rhythm section and allow that rhythm to change? Sometimes it's like, and sometimes it's like, I can still walk the same way with my eyes on the prize. Voices that are on the outside, how can we bring them to the inside of our community cipher? So there's a purpose to community on a grand scale. And of course, there's layers, right? There's a purpose to my small inner circle of trusted sister tribe that I'm gonna be a certain way to, because there's a certain intimacy and understanding. That's one community. There's my family community, yeah? There's our social institutions and the way we see each other as community. There is this semblance of this large land that we call the US that we're bounded to by borders and laws and this and that. Okay, well, it's our responsibility to respond to that as a community as well, and it go on and so forth and so forth. And it is our really duty and responsibility to figure out what the purpose is of each community. And that's not for me to decide or for me to tell you, otherwise I would be doing a disservice. But it's a song that we have to sing together, and it's a song that we have to create together. It's not static. Anyone that says it's static is afraid of the change that comes when we embrace differences. And yet at the same time, although it's a process of becoming, just again, as Audre Lorde says, oh, I love you, Audre Lorde. Thank you for saving my life 10 years ago. Hearing her say also, it is community that uplifts us, uplifts your highest potential, but it is also just as important to understand one's personal power and have integrity with that and protect that. It is a both and situation. It is not binary. It is not self or other. It is self in relation to community. Community including the land, including creation, including the heavens, including the depths of the soul. So community. It's nice to have pause. It's nice to have pause. Like, scroll, scroll, like, scroll, followers, oh my God, what's she wearing? That means that I don't look really good. Oh my God, they're on tour. Oh my God, I'm not on tour. Oh my God, wow, she twerks better than me, oh shit. Oh my God, oh my God, their design company is just totally skyrocketing. That means mine's not. Oh my God, their empanadas are better than my empanadas, and their tea is better than my tea, and their coffee's better than my coffee, and their outfit's better than my outfit, and oh my God, their spiritual quote's so much better than my spiritual quote. Like. So now, what does it mean to have a digital community? Digital community. That's happening, and it's a powerful thing. It's another community that we have to really have discernment with. enter the ethers of the digital world with some discernment and knowledge of who you are and knowledge of your worth. And I really believe that we're coming into an era where a few years down the line, there's gonna be psychology written about how disturbing it can be being in a digital world without an understanding of one's worth and one's value. You can't just give it away and allow the ethers to define it for you. So here we have personal, cultural, political, social, land, creation, and then there's this digital community, right? I work with young people. Working in the jail and prison system allowed me to learn about restorative justice, in understanding what everyone's needs are, whether or not you did a harm or whether or not you were a recipient of harm. It's important to understand what the needs are. Needs in a community and in a circle allows us to understand what the core issues are. If we know what the core issues are, we can respond as a community. You send someone home from jail at 2 a.m. on a bus in San Francisco with nowhere to go, with no food stamps, with no place to go, what y'all think you're gonna happen? So with restorative justice, transformative justice, understanding what those needs are and allowing for the sphere of belonging to be much more wider than it is. So in that world, I started learning about the school to prison pipeline. I love young people, I have it on my heart. Someone once said a school, I was a restorative justice coordinator at a school in Oakland Unified for 2 years. And one of the teachers like, Naima, you're a kid whisperer. I was like, I think I'm only a kid whisperer because I have an inner 4-year-old that I'm not afraid to let out, you know? I think we all have our own kid whisperers. But I learned so much from youth. Last year, I was a full-time music teacher at a public charter school in Richmond. Every day, kids are so not afraid to challenge you. Miss Naima, you had us read the beloved community quote by Bell Hooks, since day one. It's the last day of school. I still don't think that there's community. Ooh, okay. Okay, I got work to do. We have work to do, and that's okay. That's okay, because this world revolves because of tension and vibration and that magnetic force, and we just gotta embrace that. We just gotta embrace that. There's a blues song that when I was in Lebanon in October, I had the honor of accompanying this incredible woman by the name of Zainab Zakash. She has been doing drama therapy and working with folks on the inside of prisons in Lebanon to change laws, to change penal codes about the Lebanese prison system, and created plays, invited government officials to come to the plays on the inside of one of the most notorious prisons in the Middle East. And I was able to go with her. And we created a cipher, man. 2 hours, we created a blues in Arabic, and it was beautiful. This stuff, it has no borders. It has no borders. But we have to pay respect to the people that came before us that had different lives than maybe we did, or maybe ushering us into the paths that we're supposed to be in. Self, community, understanding. What is the song that we're singing? What are the songs we're singing as communities? Thank you so much.